Welcome in to Blues Central Post Game here, presented by Drink Thunder. Fuel your fire with Drink Thunder, the all-natural pre-workout that hints different. Plant-based, feet-powered, zero sugar, sweetened naturally with monk fruit. Each serving is packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants to ignite your energy and push your performance to the next level. Choose your flavor: orange mango, blackberry lemonade, strawberry cream, and fuel the rush the natural way. Order now at drinkthunder.com. Drink Thunder, pure, powered, no crash, all natural. Whew. Well, welcome into this Blue Central late night here, reporting live from Enterprise Center. Jacob Stonick alongside Thomas Welch, and we will get right into the ugly of it. 8-3 against Blackhawks. Simply put, I think that's I don't even know if I can put it into words. It was ugly. It was gross. It was disheartening, disappointing. And one of the favorite tweets that at least I put out on X today was like watching a kid trying to ride a bike for the 20th time, kept failing, frustrating, disappointing, and just downright hard to watch. So as everyone keeps fueling in, by all means, let everything out. We will talk about it with everyone. We want you to get your frustrations out. That's what this post-game show is here for. Let us know what you thought about the game. Simply put, yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. It was another game. I was talking about it last year a lot. Last year it was every single game. It seemed like every play that I was doing, or every play they made, it went from basically moving up the ice, something can happen, and immediately I just went, what are we doing? And all of a sudden, it just felt like that again here today.
Yeah, I think Rob puts it the best way for me. Both games at home, zero effort, right? We got 5-0 blown out in the home opener, absolutely embarrassed against a Central Division opponent in the Minnesota Wild. And then, your next home game when you finally get redemption against a Central Division opponent and your rival, historic rival in the Chicago Blackhawks, it gets even worse in an 8-3 loss. So for me, it's an apathetic loss by the St. Louis Blues. It's a pathetic loss by the St. Louis Blues. From everything that we saw from this team last season into the playoffs, even all the way up until that Game 7. We talked to Oscar Sundqvist about it. Like, they played great until probably the last 3 minutes of that game. So for them to come out this way against their rivals in a redemption game back home in front of your fans, like all of that is just unacceptable. I know we're probably going to get into a little bit more of individual performances a little bit later, but it didn't feel like anyone played well tonight. Maybe Jake Neighbors, kid stays hot, puts the puck in the back of the net, also sticks up for his goalie when he gets run into on that Frank Nazar goal. So, and then Dylan Holloway looks good too. But outside of that, dude, like, this team's starting to worry me. And we talked about it on the last post game we saw a good performance. Can this team string together a couple of them? And we were working on 2 games in a row. We're like, okay, we're taking steps in the right direction, winning multiple periods, out battling teams. And then it just all collapsed tonight. I genuinely have no idea what happened. If they underestimated the Chicago Blackhawks, if they get stage fright at home in front of their great fans, I have no idea. But what I do know is the entire city of St. Louis and the greater St. Louis area is counting on the St. Louis Blues to be competitive because they're the only team in the area that's close to being competitive right now. City is not. The Cardinals are not. The Battlehawks are not. So, like, we're living and dying on every game of the St. Louis Blues. So it's an even added pressure now because you don't have another team to fall back on. Also doesn't help that you watch the Chicago Cubs. It's not like they won the World Series, but they did make the playoffs while the Cardinals are still struggling. Milwaukee Brewers made the playoffs while the Cardinals are still struggling. And then, the Chicago Blackhawks just put an 8-piece on us tonight. So it's like, it feels like if you're a St. Louis sports fan, you're getting punched in the eye, and then you turn around, some little kid trips you and then like kicks you in the head on your way down. Like it just continues to get worse. And infuriating for everybody involved.
Yeah, I think the best way, Mike Meyer, not with us here today on the post game, but he's down there at the scrums right now getting some good words in. We were just talking back and forth half the game. It just looked flat. Simply put, they looked flat. They weren't trying. It seemed like it was just it. I mean, obviously, it's not like they're actually trying to not care. But that being said, they just looked so off. They looked slow, and Brady puts here. Team looked slow, has looked slow in the 2 games they've gotten embarrassed in this year, and that's exactly it. It was so weird to say, hey, what happened on the road? Like, you're on the road. Statistically, teams play worse on the road, right? So when you come back home and not only do you lose, but you get embarrassed. I'm talking embarrassed. What's the reason for it? What needs to be fixed? I mean, that being said, and I'm just going to put this out there now for all fans to know. Early season, 4 games in. It's just 1 game. Lot to go. But, and I will say this as well, this should have been an early statement game for the Blues, and they did not perform. This was an early game against a conference rival on national television, back at home, and in an early part of the season. I mean, obviously, it's not going to ruin your season. It's not going to ruin your chances, but it sets up how this next few months is going to be for the Blues, essentially, how they're going to be viewed. This is all about how is the NHL going to see the St. Louis Blues right now, from the fans all the way to the top. I mean, that's simply how it is. Like, how is it going to be viewed? And right now, based off just these first few games, from what the Blues have been in for their big games, awful. Simply put, they're not good.
Yeah, and I think the biggest performance for me, and chat's going crazy about it, but my God, like, on one hand, it's almost like if you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan and how the playoffs ended for them, it was so catastrophically bad that you almost there's a point to where it swings from, okay, I'm aggressively livid at this person, to where it becomes so bad to where you're like, God, I genuinely feel bad, because there's no way that you can look at this in a positive manner. That's as the game went on, especially once they put him back in after Binnington came in, that's how I felt for Joel Hofer, because it kind of felt like, okay, if the team's going to die and the team's going to give up, we're just going to leave Joel Hofer in because he started, and hopefully, we'll put Jordan Binnington in against the Dallas Stars and not burn through both of our goalies. But my God, dude, for as many great things as we have said about Joel Hofer this season, even coming into the season, even last season, one of, if not the best goaltending tandem in the NHL, this was by far the worst game I've ever seen from him. And I think it swings from being aggressively angry towards him, towards feeling bad for him, because we know that goalies are such mental players. And I think even the broadcast mentioned the goaltending coach came down and sat on the bench for the 3rd period. And I think that was directly because they were, I don't know if worried is the right word, but taking into consideration the mental health of Joel Hofer, because it was, I don't know, it felt obvious to me that he couldn't put the last goal that went past him behind him, no pun intended. But I mean, he was just fighting it all night long, not being able to find pucks. There was a puck that was sitting on his pad that gets poked in just because he didn't know it was there. And it's I mean, it could things could not have gone worse for Joel Hofer. So in that regard, maybe that's the positive, is that it can only go up from there. But I think you get Binner in net against Dallas in the next game, which is great, right? Binner had that goal against him. I'm not going to fault him for that because he's going in cold, But my biggest gripe with this whole thing is, well, one, obviously, is how concerned are you about Joel Hofer? Because even Monty, up until yesterday or 2 days ago, was yeah, I think it's a lot closer to a 50-50 split than we've seen in years past. And now it's okay, when can you play him again? Is he broken? I have no idea. everything is question marks for me right now for Joel Hofer because of that performance. And it sucks to say that. But even going past that, like this team outside of Jake Neighbors and Dylan Holloway does not look like they've been ready to start this season. Like whether it's slow, whether it's a lack of physicality, whether it's, chat going off about Logan Mailloux. And I get it because Zachary Bolduc's kind of lighting the world on fire in Montreal, but we kind of knew that he would too. Like, yeah, we'll get to that in a second, but it's like, there's a lot of moving parts on this team. The problem is a lot of these moving parts aren't new. Like you've got Bukestad as a new guy and you've got Suter as a new guy, but outside of that, like the core that was there last season has remained, and it doesn't look like the team that we saw post Four Nations, and it doesn't look like the team that we saw almost take down the President's Trophy winners in the Winnipeg Jets. So how do you fix that? How do you right that ship? I don't know, but I know that we've got the man for the job in Jim Montgomery. That's for sure.
Well, before we get even deeper into some of that other individual stuff, don't forget to download the DraftKings Sports app or Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets for just a $5 bet. We go live December 1st. Getting very, very close, that December 1st date. That's code STL Sports. Partnerships with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So I'm going to open this up first as we come back in. I thought the Hofer's game overall had a rough start, and it was one of the situations where he just couldn't bounce back. That happens. I can understand it. We've seen it hundreds of times before. It just sucks when it happens to your goaltender. Had a rough start, had some difficulty getting himself back into it. It was probably in his head. So that happens. That being said, too, now Hofer has to learn to get over that. That is a roadblock he's got to get over. Here's an interesting thing. We'll get into the Mailloux topic here in just a second. Same people saying it's only one game, the same people that's been fine with the Cardinals sucking for over a decade and telling everyone else they're wrong. We have eyes. Well, this is my rebuttal. Watch past 2 games? That's about all I can really say. It's pro sports. It's all over the place. I mean, saw the Blues what happened last year. They had multiple games where they go, this is an awful team, need to blow it up, get rid of everyone, and restart. And then they end up turning around, almost taking down the best team in hockey for the regular season. So, obviously, yes, it's good to say it's one game, because that's really what it is. It's one game this season, beginning of the season, everyone's still figuring out. It's just the circumstances and the other things around it. This isn't a defining game for the Blues themselves. It's, in my opinion, more or less of how the Blues are going to be seen for the next few months moving forward. And they kind of have to reestablish themselves now as a quality team after what happened here tonight.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the most frustrating things for me is we know, like, even we saw it in this game, like the narrative changed from, the Blues are like the big bad brother of the Battlehawks and just constantly bully them, winning, I think, 16 of their last 20 meetings and, just taking it to them night in, night out. And then all of a sudden, in one game, in an 8-3 victory, the Chicago Blackhawks completely twist that narrative into Connor Bedard is 3 times the player that he was last year, even though he's a career minus 80. That pass that he made through a massive gap was the greatest pass that we've ever seen in our lives. Frank Nazar is an easy Calder winner and should probably be going to the Olympics. Like, all of this spewing nonsense just because Chicago is one of the biggest markets in the NHL. Like, it makes me want to vomit, right? But it's on the Blues and on the teams that play the Blackhawks to make sure that narrative doesn't happen, because we know, like, this game could have ended 4-3 and, like, that narrative still would have happened. So it's on the Blues to come out and squash that narrative, especially at home, especially because they have won 16 of the last 20 meetings. Like, that's their job. That's their role. And they should know that. And so, like, having to hear that on the broadcast, especially from Panger, dude, just absolutely rips me in half. It's sickening.
It really just hurts. Seeing him between the benches again here on TNT, it was amazing being able to see that once again. But, of course, when you know that all he's talking about is the Blackhawks, it just rips your heart out. It really does. But to talk about the Mailloux situation, I tweeted earlier, or posted on X, I should say. I'm one of the ones that's kind of jumping the gun here. That being said, I think I'm in agreement with a lot of people. I posted earlier, I said, simple as this, Mailloux needs to be scratched, 2 games minimum, let Kessel get some ice time, then put him back in. If he doesn't step up after that, got to send him to Springfield to develop him a little bit more. End of story. Love to get your thoughts on that. I know that everyone else has been all over the place on him. So it's kind of a question of, I'm a little bit on the, maybe we try giving him some time off. Maybe we see how he can handle the criticism that he's gotten so far early on in the season here. Maybe we give Kessel that time to develop, because we've seen him a little bit last year. He looked good last year. Maybe now we give him a chance here. And then if Mailloux really isn't the answer, because he's still a young guy, he's only has 11, 12 NHL games underneath his belt, maybe we give him more time to develop at the AHL level. I'm not sure. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think, okay, there's a couple schools of thought here, so I'm going to try to rack my brains here at 11:45 at night. So my I hate doing player comparisons because it's not like every player is their own player, but like I'm kind of getting the sense of early on in his career, like when Vince Dunn was on the Blues and he was kind of on that third pairing, like still saw the skating ability and the offensive defenseman that he was. Obviously, he's kind of taken a turn and really spread his wings in Seattle now. So mad props to him. And that just comes with age and experience and figuring it out, right? But I think early on in his career for St. Louis Blues, like he was kind of that scapegoat defensively to where people were like, you can't put this guy on the ice. Like the puck's in the back of the net every chance, like every minute he gets, he's picking it out of the back. Like you got to send this guy down, all these things, right? But it's like, it's because of that youth and because of that, you got to have that patience, right? And I think for Blues fans, we need to understand like the comparisons with Bolduc. Obviously, Montreal's getting that immediate gratification from Bolduc. We had that immediate gratification last year, but with a defenseman like Mailloux, if you're following like the character arc or the player development, like we saw with Vince Dunn, like it is going to take time. But what's important is we know the prices that you have to pay for right-handed offensive defensemen because we tried to get Noah Dobson, right? And that price was very high. So if you can get in a prospect like Mailloux, like the Blues believe Mailloux is and is going to be, and get him on a cost-controlled contract, that's going to set you up for longevity in the long run, especially with all the young pieces that are in the prospect, like in the development in this team, in the AHL, but even a guy like Jimmy Snuggerud, a guy like Tyler Tucker, like all of that's going to combine to spell success for this Blues team down the road. So I understand your frustrations. I understand that it doesn't look good right now, and everybody's looking around for a scapegoat, and it seems like Mailloux is the easiest one because, one, we had to give up Bolduc to get him, and two, he's had a rough couple of games. My rebuttal is this whole team looks terrible right now. So if this team, like, you know, but also like you said, last 2 games, they looked pretty good. So I'd like to see this team kind of even it out and give me an average kind of neutral ground instead of just, hey, this team looks like the team that beat the President's Trophy winners, and then this team looks like they're gonna, you know, win the draft lottery. So they can even that out and give us some average performance. I mean, even Robert Thomas hasn't looked that great. He's taken penalties left and right. I think he had 20 total penalty minutes last year. So, like, whether it's guys are slow, whether it's guys, you know, showed up to camp without the cardio or their legs or soreness, or Torpachenko still out of the lineup because he's got an upper and lower body injury, like whatever it is, dude, like give me a good performance from this team, and then like Logan Mailloux still looks bad and this team still loses, and then I'll be worried. But like there are too many parts. I mean, Hofer let in 7 goals tonight, and we're talking about Logan Mailloux. Like there are too many parts of this team that are struggling right now to focus on any one guy to be like, get him out of here. For me,
doesn't help that Mailloux did go with a -4 tonight. There was a lot of plays. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all Mailloux, but he was on the ice for 4 of those goals. Not on.
Hofer was on the ice for 7.
Yeah, and it's tough to see Hofer in that spot because, unlike Mailloux, we've seen what Hofer can do. We've seen the abilities that he has. He was incredible in Calgary, but just didn't have it tonight. But don't forget that the post-game here is brought to you by our business banking partners at Home Bank. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business isn't just about numbers, it's about relationships. And with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. Home Bank is behind our team and STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. That's 855-577-2001. Home Bank, member FDIC, more than a bank. They're your business partner. Remember, we'll get to that money moment of the game by Home Bank here later on. But I think Ace Rob puts it best here. Some consistency would be nice. Whew. Tell me where we've heard that before. I think it was about a year ago where we were talking about the same exact thing. Yes. And I think the problem is with 4 games in, it is such a small sample size. And with a fresh team, fresh lineups, fresh everything, it is hard to judge. And that's also why I'm also kind of on the side of maybe there's still to see for Mailloux. Maybe there's just hasn't found the step yet. But about the rest of the team, it's really about the sample size. But this is my problem when talking about a sample size or early in the season or when a team's doing bad or doing good or doing whatever. You then start to look around the rest of the league and you say, okay, so the teams that were supposed to do bad are doing kind of bad. Some teams are shockers. And some teams are doing really, and the teams projected to do really good are doing relatively pretty good. But, I mean, other than the Blues, everyone's been relatively consistent, whether that's been consistently bad or consistently good. Kind of been one side of the coin or the other. The Blues have been all over the place. And that just, especially, here at home, putting it perfectly there, consistently bad at home. So
I will say to their credit, before the home opener debacle, they won like 15 home games in a row. And I know that's going back to last season, but that was pretty consistently good. So we know that they're still capable. They're still capable of doing it. They're just 0 for 2 this season.
Yeah, it's just, and I think even at this early in the season, I think it gets to a point like, okay, now you're watching the games and you're realizing it's not just inconsistency per game, it's inconsistencies per period. They're seeing so many. It's just like throughout the game tonight, it just seemed like, one, they didn't win any period whatsoever at all. But it seemed like on the ice, it was such a different view and different play, different everything from period to period. And none of it was really good. It was just so much different, and none of it was really consistent. So moving forward, I think they got to piece together 60 minutes on Saturday. And if they can't, then there's got to be some things addressed.
And that's really going to be a great test for them. And I think we kind of lined that up even, before this game. We kind of tossed this one up as a cupcake game, which obviously we shouldn't have because it seemed like the Blues severely underestimated the Chicago Blackhawks. But, the Dallas Stars are and have been a force in the Central Division. So the Blues better come to play on Saturday because that's squad. And that's the litmus test that you want to be up against, not whatever the wrong end of this debacle was against the Chicago Blackhawks. But The Central Division is going to be nothing to sneeze at this year. It wasn't last year, but it's gotten even better. So every chance you can, take advantage of getting points on teams you're specifically playing head-to-head against teams in the Central Division, like you have to take advantage of those. And I think that's what was on the Chicago Blackhawks' mind tonight. And I think what was on the Blues' mind tonight was what they're going to do at Wheelhouse. I have no idea what they were thinking, but it obviously wasn't about playing hockey. So, but I want to go to Carl's point here because he's made a lot of good ones. So I appreciate you and everybody joining the conversation. Chat's popping off tonight, but
Appreciate
Carl,
it.
I love the points. I would be more understanding of sample sizes, but we've seen this movie before. When a team is devoid of superstar talent, pessimism is going to take over hope of getting better. I always love this narrative about the superstar talent because, well, one, we've seen a Connor McDavid-led Edmonton Oilers team that makes it all the way to the dance and doesn't win. And then we saw a 2019 Blues team that really, by all accounts, went from last to first in the league in record time and did it through depth and did it through physicality. And, we know that the playoffs are a war and it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that's why the depth, obviously the Florida Panthers are a wagon and they have some crazy top end talent on guys like Barkov and Kachuk, and Sam Bennett was crazy in the playoffs last year. But it's also their depth that makes them, so unique and, able to go through those trenches. I mean, Matthew Kachuk's up on the shelf right now, and they're still, going out and winning games because they got guys like Seth Jones and Ekblad that, hits the fountain of youth and just continues to produce at a high level. So it's not all about having those superstars. It's about having, obviously the contracts that they're wheeling and dealing over there, and the fact that you get to play, but you get to play in a hockey rink, make a lot of money, and then in your off time you can go tan by the beach. Like that kind of helps too. Obviously, I think that's a pull there. But it is because of those contracts and it is because of those pulls that they're able to lure in higher talented players, not necessarily superstars, but some of them in terms of like a Chuck. But like I said, if he's on the shelf, like I think Florida is still a formidable foe because of their depth, and I think that's where, especially for the Blues, like when you don't have those sandy beaches, when you don't have an owner that's just going to shell out $17 million for Kirill Kaprizov or however many million for Mitch Marner in free agency, like I've come to terms with the fact that the Blues are never going to compete in those types of sweepstakes in the offseason just because that's not how they're built. But they're always going to, I've also convinced myself that every player that they get in the draft is going to turn out to be a superstar because 9 times out of 10, at least their first round pick is like a bona fide stud. And in the redrafts always goes way higher than they actually selected him. So I think that's where the Blues kind of make their bread and butter is building through the draft, building, a prospect system and developing players instead of just buying them all the time like these other teams do. And I think that's where they have success. So maybe you don't necessarily need that superstar talent, or maybe you don't have to acquire it in free agency or acquire it via trade. But, hopefully you get lucky with a guy like Robert Thomas and select him, I think 20th overall. He turns into a star, even though you didn't have to use a lottery pick on him to get him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of always been the story of the Blues. It feels like there's never been that top guy since Oshie and Tarasenko. And even then, obviously those guys were names, but they were never the McDavid. They were never the Sidney Crosby. They're never the Alex Ovechkin. Blues have never really had that guy, which has always seemed to be, to me, one missing piece. Obviously, you get the win in 2019. You get the cup. But other than that, it just kind of feels like there's something missing when you don't have the national guy that is always talked about, always in the news, always just that guy that when people say hockey, that's one of the guys they think about. Blues never really had a guy like that in recent memory. I don't know if they've really had a guy like that since Brett Hull, to be honest. So, something like that, it always seems like maybe that's something like that. Perfect, right there. Pulling
I
it up
agree.
right there. So, I mean, obviously it's not something you need, but it's certainly something that's kind of been maybe a missing piece that these guys that Florida has, that the Oilers have, that the Rangers have, that these guys, like even teams that aren't winning, they still have that guy that when people say the NHL, those are guys I think about.
We're doing a lot of talking about money, Jacob. Getting me a little bit suspicious. You got something you want to talk about here?
Oh, I think I do, and that would be the money moment of the game,
All
which is brought
right.
to you by
There's a
Home
lot to
Bank,
pick from. So
the
we'll look
team
at all
behind
of
our
these
team.
highlights, and oh no, all of them have Blackhawks heads next to them. So
We just won't worry about that. We'll get the read at least here.
yeah.
Don't forget, moment of the game is brought to you by Home Bank, team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. What would be your pick? I think I have mine. I'm going to see if you pick the same moment here. So I'd love to hear yours first.
I have a great one actually in hindsight because if the results of this game were a little bit better, even if the Blues still lost or were a little bit more positive, or if they won, I probably would choose just Jake Neighbors scoring to tie the game up and staying red hot and inserting his place on the first line for this team because, like I said earlier, it feels like he's one of the few guys that's kind of just going guns blazing immediately from the jump of this season. So still loved his game, loved the fire, protecting the goalie when Nazar basically ran into him on his goal. So I thought Jake Neighbors played a great game, but I'm going to go with Dylan Holloway throwing that massive hit in the corner and just absolutely blowing that guy up because, in hindsight, it was just, it's nice to just, hang your hat on that and be like, you know what, we got a couple licks in. It was an 8-3 shellacking, and they definitely handed it to us on a silver platter. But we got a couple of ours, and Dylan Holloway was a big part of that. So I'm gonna say that's my money moment of the game.
That was exactly what I was thinking. That was going to be my pick. The Holloway goal, then leading right into that big hit. And if it stays different, that's definitely a game turner right there. If it goes the other way, that's the game shifter. That's the goal by Holloway, and then him just laying out Renzel. That being said, when I posted that, I got a lot of flack coming from opposing fans going, "Oh, so they should worry about scoring more, shouldn't they?" It was
what a revolutionary thought.
Yeah, it was a rough
Maybe they should
awakening.
score more goals.
Yeah, it was a rough awakening into realizing that, hey, other fans of other teams will post on your posts on X and flame you for posts like that, just for saying, hey, they're doing kind of good, and then immediately when it goes south, oh, by the way, they're losing. Thanks for letting me know. That's haven't been watching at all. That was my fun awakening here today, but that's definitely my money moment of the game. Wish it would have turned it around the other way, but we'll take what we can get. Simple as that. Well, we appreciate everyone here for joining us here on this Blues Central late night post game here. Once again, also don't forget to follow all of our socials, STL Sports Central on X, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, at this point, if there's social media for it, we got a page. So check out at STL Sports Central on just about everything. Check out the website as well. Go see some of our fantastic written content. I know Mike Meyer has some excellent stuff coming out here. Posted some stuff during the game as well. We'll have some other stuff coming out later as well. So check out his articles. Also, we got some Bernie articles coming on as the lights slowly start coming on. So we will exit out here quickly. Once again, one last time, we appreciate you guys so much for sticking around here and chapping or shooting in some chats here. That keeps us going and gives us content. So we really appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you guys in this.
Jacob, before you go, give me your prediction for the Dallas Stars game.
Oh gosh.
Before they shut the lights off on you and send you into the
Realistically, I'm gonna go 3-1 Dallas. Hopefully 3-1 St. Louis.
I'm gonna say 3-2, and I think
3-2.
I think
Understandable.
I think it can go either way though, for sure. I think the Blues either lose 3-2 or they win 3-2, but I don't think Binner is letting in more than 3 goals after what happened tonight. So
it's going to be kind of a redemption game, and it's going to be tough against the Stars. But I simply think it's going to be either, my heart says it's going to be 3-1 Blues, but my brain says after tonight, it's kind of hard to say that they're going to win on Saturday.
Carl says Dallas 5, Blues 1. Listen, man, if the Blues underestimate Dallas, by all accounts, that scoreline could happen. And by all accounts, if they underestimate Dallas, they deserve that scoreline. So
they deserve to lose every single game if they underestimate Dallas. Simple as that. As that. Once again, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thomas Welsh, Jacob Stonick, and this has been Blues Central postgame right here on STL Sports Central. And as always, go Blues.